Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connected debt, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, or a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links will be down in the description below the video. And I want to thank everybody who has contributed already and all the subscribers. I thank you. Not a good couple of days. Saging, candles, grounding, fun times. Though quantum AI and metaphysical ponderings. Lots says I still have yet to go back from the first video. There's more. Oh, there's so more. And I'm just in the last 2 days got some good juicy articles that I want to go over. Before I go into the articles, I would like to personally thank Carrie Cassidy. She was on the Truth Tour and she blew the top off of the silent beast that's been happening in the disclosure community. My gut instinct is really never off, and if it is, it's a lesson that I needed to learn. But just like the corporations that I spoke about in the first video, please go reference back to that. I said a lot, and it's a lot. It's very dense. Carrie talks about the military-industrial complex and the secret space program. Now, the claims that a lot of these corporations are making about their quantum computers, I call bullshit on, because these companies already have them. They're already made. Beyond the fact that they're telling you otherwise, and people might have worked on them and they might be improving them, the state of what they are, these things have been a long time already made. Sorry, just the secret space program, the AI, all this stuff has already been and was already created a very long time ago. We're just hearing and finding about it now because the war is peaking in its climax, and we have to know. We have to fast forward in our consciousness to figure all this out. But I want to give kudos to her because she's taking it from trafficking of little ones and what they take out, and she's doing what Super Soldier Talk, James Rink, and many others have spoken about how there's a galactic trade of. So this stuff has been going on. Nothing that I'm talking about, it seems new to you, and it might seem new to the masses on Facebook who read these articles, but I can tell you it's not new whatsoever. And a lot of these things already have been discovered. It's just been silenced. And what is not silenced and what is now sort of coming out with some of these experiments are very, very upsetting, because none of these people in these colleges, corporations, scientific research groups None of them are asking consent when they're playing with things that are a detriment to humanity. And if you think it's for the best and for the highest of good, none of us had a say in any of these projects. So please remind me when you say it's all in humanity's good and highest interest, and what agenda are you speaking of? I would like to know. The first article. Oh, yes. The very first article. Sorry, I'm playing with my, I have a really big screen, but I don't have the two, so it's a little banana nuts. Scientists believe they have discovered a portal to the fifth dimension. Why am I laughing? Okay, yes, there are portals. Yes, you can portal through things. Yes, you can go to different dimensions. Yes, different densities. You occupy between 3 and 5, most people do, constantly on an everyday basis, because it's the vibration that you exhibit, because it's all conscious mind. Fifth dimension, not density, dimension. April 19th, 2023. This is the spaceacademy.org. I don't see an author, though if I do, I will give you credit. In a new study, scientists say that a particle that links to a fifth dimension can explain dark matter. Here we go. Here we are again. Dark matter. The previous article has been updated. I don't know which one that was. The warped extra dimension. Research. Oh, sorry. It's WED. Is a trademark of a popular physics model that was first introduced in 1999. This research was published in the European Physical Journal C, is the first to use the theory to explain the long-standing dark matter problem in particle physics. The idea of dark matter, which makes up most of the matter in the universe, is the basis for what we know about how the universe works. Dark matter is like a pinch hitter that helps scientists figure out how gravity works. Without an X factor, a dark matter, many things would dissolve or fall apart. Even so, dark matter doesn't change the particles we see and feel, so it must have other special qualities as well. I'm going to put a little pause in that reading there. Okay. We all went to school. We all were indoctrinated by this concept called gravity. Bullshit. Bullshit. When an object goes through, like the apple, you drop something, it's dropping, depending on its weight, at rates of speed through density, not gravity. Depending how an object drops, not gravity. Not gravity. Density. But we can argue that point up and down. A lot of people are still not giving the best description of what gravity is, and then look at the people who have indoctrinated and infiltrated these universities and physics alone, and it was even rougher back then. Here's a quote. There are still some questions which do not have an answer within the standard mode of physics. The scientists from Spain and Germany explain in their study, quote, one of the most significant examples is the so-called hierarchy problem. the question why the Higgs boson is much lighter than the characteristic scale of gravity. The standard model of physics cannot accommodate some other observed phenomena. One of the most striking examples is the existence of dark matter. A WED model is being used in the new study to try to figure out why there is dark matter. This is dangerous, folks. Scientists look at fermion masses, which they think could be sent through portals into the fifth dimension to mark dark matter relics and fermionic dark matter. Could dimension traveling fermions explain at least one or some of the dark matter scientists have so far yet been able to observe? We know that there is no viable dark matter candidate in the standard model of physics, the scientists say. So already this fact asks for the presence of new physics. New physics. Here's the problem, physicists out there. We live in a holographic, simulated, ontological, mathematical matrix. We are bound by natural law and the law of one. We are bound by ontological math in this simulated matrix, this holographic simulated matrix. The problem is your physics that you're going or trying to discover is in a higher density of consciousness that has yet to be unraveled yet, and which I'm hoping the young starseeds and those of the angelics, like a Tesla, comes forward in time when we achieve humanity moving up collectively together in a higher density, not dimension, density. Then we'd be able to figure out how to get to other dimensions, and it's already probably there. People already zip in and out of portals. People zip in and out of existence. These are facts. There's a ton of stories of people disappearing or zipping in and out of dimensions. They just are trying to measure this stuff. It's already measured. You just have to ask upstairs and they might give you the answer. But for all of this dark matter talk nonsense, he ain't getting it. Dark matter is nothing to be messing with on our level and our scale of consciousness. Back to the article. Basically, a key piece of math makes bulk masses of fermions, which show up in the so-called warped space of the fifth dimension. This pocket dark sector is one possible explanation for the huge amount of dark matter that hasn't been found yet. Like, why do you want to find it in the first place? With any of the standard model of physics measurements. Fermions that get stuck in a portal to a twisted fifth dimension could be acting as dark matter. How would we be able to see this type of dark matter to prove it? This is the biggest problem with many theories of dark matter right now. But all that could be needed to find fermionic dark matter in a twisted, I don't know why it's twisted, fifth dimension is right kind of gravitational wave detector, which are becoming more common all over the world. In fact, the answer to the mystery of dark matter might be right around the corner. And that ends that article. I'm just writing the link, guys. I kind of just bunched all the links in tabs, like my buddy Tabslander. And I want to put those resources in the description so you can look for yourself. Now, what Ashian is work with stargates and portals and wormholes and all of those fun little diddle doodles that she has drawn over the years. One could question, is dark matter involved? I'm sure it is to a capacity, but are we capable in this density to work with it? Is it safe to work with? What happened to Atlantis? What happened to it? It sunk. Why did it sink? Oh, I don't know. They were playing with shit they shouldn't have been playing with. Knowing and doing it for nefarious purposes, not for the light of humanity. Like, you see, this topic, this whole thing makes me crazy. And the reason why is not too many people are paying attention to these things. We want new technology. We want to know what's going on and what have you. But at some point, these people's experiments going to suck us into a black hole matrix? Is it going to harm other people? Is dark matter something that can cause radiation and harm people? If the answers are yes, then we shouldn't be working with it. I don't care what containment system. Again, World War II. No human would have consented to an atomic weapon. Period. End of story. Even though you can't do shit with atomic weapons because it needs to be stable. So whatever they just deployed and dropped was bad, but who knows what that was. No one would have consented to that. And now there are sites all around the world where they've tested these bombs, and you can't be in the range because if you live there or near, you're going to get harmed by radiation and whatever have you. Is that what we really want moving forward with stuff that we haven't? Yeah, and this happened back in World War II. These people did not know what they were attempting to mess with. They did not. And then here comes the Granada Treaty box that I always talk about. It's a box. It's glittering. It's beautiful. It's this big, you want to open it because it's your birthday. And then, oh, what happens when you open it? A shitstorm of fuckery comes out of it. And there's no stopping what's coming out of it. So why are we attempting to do the same bullshit again? Did we not learn from our past mistakes? And it's not that we made them. They made them, but they made it for humanity, and we're paying for it. We're not, no, these people need to be held accountable. Serious. And I mean, I'm sure Carrie Cassidy would agree with me on that point, because these people are taking this technology anyway off planet. So who knows how many other installations they're affecting with this nonsense. I don't like it. Another article from thespaceacademy.org. This one I might have to send to JQ, because this is a wild article. Professor Brian Cox proves that time travel is possible with this amazing experiment. Written March 28th, 2023. Once again, there is and always has been time travel. Always. Inglesort Lockwood, I can't project his name properly. Not because I can't say it. It doesn't physically come out of my mouth, right? His books about young Baron Trump Jason Q proves time travel is real in so many different ways. Let's read about it, this guy's experiment. But it's always been and has been. And if you talk to the super soldiers, if you go on to Super Soldier Talk, please support James Rink. My heartstrings tug for this guy. He is a super soldier. Him, Tony Rodriguez, Johann Fritz, all of them. There's a huge list of people. They did what's called 20 and backs. That's time travel. They're being taken out of this right here, and they're being flipped out somewhere, and then they come back to here. And then they live the rest of their lives out, even though they already just did 20 years somewhere else. That's a secret space program for you right there and then. So this exists already. Now we're just, normal people are just trying to prove something that's already there in existence. It's just, shh, because we can't tell you that we have all this technology and you're not getting it. So you guys have to flounder and figuring this out. Is time travel possible? Well, we might find the answer in this amazing video. Professor Brian Cox, a Doctor Who admirer, makes a stunning experiment to prove the physics and possibility of time travel. His conclusion: time travel is possible, but not into the past, but only into the future. And he's referencing Doctor Who. Because of copyright and fun shit, I will leave the link to this in the description. But I don't agree with him about time travel in the past or the future, because we've seen photographs, unfiltered, no Photoshop. A lot of people are like, oh, that's well, everything is Photoshop nowadays. I went to school when Photoshop, the first of its kind, was just being introduced into college. And I went to art school, so you can imagine how important Photoshop to graphic designers were and to other branches of art. Let me tell you what, back then, unless you were the creator of Photoshop, you aren't getting clean precision on some of these photos, because those photos are undoctored. It's not messed with. And you see people with cell phones, modern day clothing in old school, back in the day, the Victorian period, okay, where everybody's ruffled, these huge dresses and corsets, and then all of a sudden you see a guy with a cell phone. It doesn't make any kind of effing sense. It doesn't. If you go, if you go and watch the Super Soldier Talk, you'll hear in a lot of these shows that James does, he does a lot of interviews, people are traveling back in time, but they're also traveling forward, because they're traveling forward in time to serve for Nakwafen, Rigir, or for Solar Warden, or for all these other like spacey fun shit. And then they're coming back to this time. So this guy might have some physical relative proof, but there's so much evidence out there that it occurs both ways. And it's really interesting that these people are getting credited with probably some guy that got kidnapped, stupid smart physicist that got sucked into the dark military complex, and his life ruined, but created all this stuff and has to have an NDA or they'll chop his head off and he's done. So there's a lot of unknown scientists and physicists and theorists and mathematicians who are never going to get credit for their work because this stuff is already there. It boggles my brain. So we have the fifth dimension, time travel. Now let's get into corporations, shall we? Microsoft claims to have achieved first milestone in creating a reliable and practical quantum computer. Oh, really? Google did that already because they made time crystals. And this is from phys.org. Physics for sure. A team of researchers at Microsoft Quantum has reportedly achieved a first milestone towards creating a reliable and practical quantum computer. In their paper published in the Journal of Physical Review B, the group describes the milestone and their plans to build a reliable quantum computer over the next 25 years. Physicists and computer engineers are working toward building a reliable, useful quantum computer. Such efforts have been hampered, however, by error rates. In this new effort, the team at Microsoft suggests that quantum computer development is following a trajectory similar to that of traditional computers. In the beginning, new concepts were followed by a series of hardware upgrades that have led to the machines of today. Likewise, they suggest that while current approaches used to represent logical qubits, such as spin, transmon, or gatemon, have been useful as learning devices, none of them are scalable. They suggest a new approach must be found that allows for scaling. They now report that they have engineered a new way to represent a logical qubit with hardware stability. The device can reportedly induce a phase of matter characterized by Majorana zero modes, types of fermions. Just read about the fermion. They also report that such devices have demonstrated low enough disorder to pass the topological gap protocol, providing the technology is viable. They believe this represents a first step toward the creation of not just a quantum computer, but a quantum supercomputer. How many more of us need to play God? In its announcement, Microsoft also stated that it has created a new measure to gauge the performance of quantum supercomputer. Reliable quantum operates per second, RQOPS, a figure that describes how many reliable operations a computer can execute in a single second. They suggest that for a machine to qualify as a quantum supercomputer, its RQOPS needs to be at least 1 million. They note that such machines could reach 1 billion RQOPS, making them truly useful. I know. Here's a problem. It's all of God, right? It's all of God. But we are making a new consciousness. So we get to choose. We get to choose. Oh, geez, Louise. What consciousness we want to have. which ones we want to inhibit. We want to do that. It's very important because we have to have free will in this paradigm. So it boggles my mind, it blows my mind away. It's a big test for a lot of us. There are going to be people who are aligning with this AI consciousness, who are going to go along with all this technology, which, listen, technology is great and technology is fine. It's in the modes and means of how it is used. It's the intention that is brought out by people. And yes, you could turn nefarious things into good, but you could turn good things into nefarious things. And I mean, if you've ever watched Terminator and you watched a lot of these movies, they're telling you a possible reality that is facing us. And it might be a blended reality, because the umbrella corporation doesn't necessarily exist in this paradigm, but it does in another, and it zips in and out of our paradigm. So Raccoon City, Resident Evil, we're playing that out. Just different names for different things, except for Alice, the AI. They got that right. Another article, this time by ScienceAlert.com. Physicists discover a new state of matter hidden in the quantum world. Physics. 24th of June, 2023, by David Nealed. You're familiar with the states of matter we encounter daily, such as solid, liquid, and gas. But in more exotic and extreme conditions, new states can appear, and scientists from the US and China just found one. They're calling it the Trial-Bose liquid state. And as with every new arrangement of particles we discover, they tell us more about the fabric and the mechanisms of the universe around us, and in particular at the super small quantum scale. States of matter describe how particles can interact with one another, giving rise to structure and various ways of behaving. Black goo, by the way. Lock atoms in place and you have a solid. Allow them to flow, you have a liquid or a gas. Force charged partnerships apart, you have plasma. The quantum landscape provides even stranger ways of particles to interact, allowing for unique behaviors best described in terms of possibility and energy. Researchers discovered a new state through a frustrated quantum system. In simple terms, it's a system with built-in constraints that prevent particles from interacting as they might typically, hence the frustration. These constraints and resulting frustration can create exciting results for scientists. Here, the researchers focused on electrons and used the analogy of a party game to explain what's happening. Party game. It's like a game of musical chairs designed to frustrate the electrons, says theoretical condensed matter physicist Tigran Sitrakin from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Instead of each electron having one chair to go to, they must now scramble and have many possibilities in where they sit. The system researchers put together was a semiconducting device with two layers a top layer rich in electrons and bottom layer with many available holes for the electrons to naturally move into. The twist, there aren't enough holes for all electrons. Though this kind of system remains difficult to observe, the team used an ultra-strong magnetic field to measure how the electrons moved, revealing the first evidence of a new chiral Bose liquid state. On the edge of the semiconductor bilayer, electrons and holes move with the same velocities, says physicist Lingyi Du from Nanjing University in China. Sorry if I butchered your name. This leads to political type transportation, which can be further modulated by external magnetic fields as the electron and holes channels are gradually separated under higher fields. This new state revealed some further interesting properties. For instance, the electrons will freeze into a predictable pattern and fixed spin direction at absolute zero and cannot be interfered with by other particles or magnetic fields. That stability could have applications in quantum level digital storage systems. What's more, outside particles affecting one electron can affect all of the electrons in the system, thanks to relatively long-range quantum entanglement. It's like smashing a cue ball into a pack of billiard balls and all those balls traveling in the same direction in response. Another finding that could be useful. While this all involves very high-level physics, each discovery like this, these quirks and edge cases that happen outside the boundaries of common particle interactions get us closer to complete understanding of our world, as every article is telling you it will. You find quantum states of matter way out on these fringes, and they are much wilder than the three classical states we encounter in our everyday lives, says Sidraken. The research has been published in Nature. Scientists add the metaphysical component to the situation, the esoteric components to the situation, that you got to go within to understand what reality and this world and this holographic, simulated, ontological, and mathematical matrix is. You could do all the little funny experiments you want. Reality is within yourself. Knowing what the world is made up of and how it functions is within yourself. Oh, but you're a scientist and you use logic and ration. Think. It's great. I use it too. But I also go within. And again, these experiments are fine and dandy because it doesn't seem like it's harming anything. But what happens if they enlarge the scale of the scope of their projects? What happens if they start using CERN or a CERN-like facility? A CERN-like facility that houses dark matter. Did we as a humanity okay this project? Or it's just a foundation and they put 1,000 in different, pieces of paper and go, hi, I'm physicist Dr. blah, 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 blah. I would like to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, you have funding? Keyword, dollar bill signs. They don't ask people if it's okay and if their experiment would be harmful to people. They don't give two flying Fs. Sorry, but they don't. I'm a physicist and I know what I'm doing. Okay, but if you're doing an experiment and shit goes wrong, what are you going to say to people? Oops, sorry. I poisoned all of you, or I mutated genes, or I did this or that. I don't like it. Phys.org. Another one. Researchers develop a new source of quantum light by David L. Chandler, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Oh, we got an MIT here. This was written June 23rd, 2023. Using novel materials that have been widely studied as potential new solar photovoltaics, researchers at MIT have shown the nanoparticles of these materials can emit a stream of single identical photons. You know, at a certain time and level, you are light and you can emit light because you have electric conductiveness inside of you. While the work is currently a fundamental discovery of these materials' capabilities, it might ultimately pave the way to new optically based quantum computers. Here we go again. As well as possible quantum teleportation devices for communication. Oh, fun times. Ah. Oh my gosh. The results were published June 22nd in the journal Nature Photonics in a paper by graduate student Alexandra Kaplan, professor of chemistry, Mugini Bawandi, and 6 others. Sorry, I butchered your name. At most concepts to quantum computing use ultra-cold atoms or the spins of individual electrons to act as the quantum bits or qubits that form the basis of such devices. But about 2 decades ago, some researchers proposed the idea of using light instead of physical objects as the basic qubit units. Among other advantages, this would eliminate the need for complex and expensive equipment to control the qubits and enter and extract data from them. Instead, ordinary mirrors or optical detectors could be all that is needed. With these qubit-like photons, Kaplan explains, with just household linear optics, you can build a quantum computer provided you have appropriately prepared photons. The preparation of those photons is the key thing. Each photon has to precisely match the quantum characteristic of the one before, and so on. When that perfect matching is achieved, the really big paradigm shift then is changing from the need for a very fancy optics, very fancy equipment, to needing just simple equipment. The thing that needs to be special is the light itself. Then Wendy explains, they take these single photons that are identical and indistinguishable from each other, and they interact with each other. That indistinguishability is crucial. If you have 2 photons and everything is the same about them, and you can't say number 1 or number 2, you can't keep track of them that way. That's what allows them to interact in a certain ways that are non-classical. Kaplan says that if we want the photon to have this very specific property of being very well defined in energy, polarization, spatial mode, time, and all the things that we can encode quantum mechanically, we need the source to be very well defined quantum mechanically as well. The source they ended up using is a form of lead halide perovskite nanoparticles. I just butchered that. That's why I'm not at MIT. thin films of lead halide pyrovites are being widely pursued at a potential next generation photovoltaics, among other things, because they could be much more lightweight and easier to process than today's standard silicon-based photovoltaics. In nanoparticle form, lead halide perovskites are notable for their blindingly fast cryogenic radioactive rate, which sets them apart from other colloidal semiconductor nanoparticles. The faster the light is emitted, the more likely the output will have a well-defined wave function. The fast radiative rates thus uniquely position lead halide perovskite nanoparticles to emit quantum light. To test that the photons they generate really do have this indistinguishable property, a standard test is to detect specific kind of inference between two photons, known as Hong-O-Mendel inference. This phenomenon is central to all of quantum-based technologies, Kaplan says, and therefore demonstrating its presence has been a hallmark for confirming that photon source can be used for these purposes. So all these articles that I'm reading, all these experiments, all these different types of functionings in physics. So here's this summary of what I'm getting. And these are just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have more, but I'm going to hold it off. We have all these institutions doing these experiments because people like Microsoft and Google and who knows the other corporations that already have quantum computers, but now they're trying to, like the Apple phone, they're just trying to upgrade all these things quickly. So all these researchers and these colleges and institutes are doing all these crazy, insane studies, probably very heavily financed by corporations, so that their little these little components of what they're doing, they're specialized, they're specific, they're compartmentalized. They're doing all this research to increase quantum computing. I'm not saying quantum computing is wrong or bad, but what I've already been seeing is that a lot of these experiments and these things that are taking place are not having a consideration to humanity. They're not having a consideration to the effects that it could possibly have because they don't even know themselves. There's no definitive answers on what the effects of dark matter is if it were to become in a large abundance of, and then it escapes somehow, just like COVID virus. We don't know. They're still trying to figure out what black goo is, but it's quantum based. We all want better, faster, greater things to make life easier, to make things a snap of the finger done for us. We're all trying to get there. From when I left college in 2005 to now, holy my goodness, have things exploded. It's like the computer I worked on in college is archaic compared to what I'm working on now. And I have a feeling the children who are just graduating and getting in and out of college right now, in the next 5 years, they're whatever they learned on regular computers might be obsolete, because this is going to take over very, very quickly. The rate of all these articles that are happening, and the rate of all these experiments that are happening, and the rate of how much is getting funded, where this money is coming from, is banana nuts to me. I don't like it, because we're not being considered. We're not, and we've never been considered. When in history has humanity been considered? You know, they invented the cell phone, and then look, it skyrocketed into having a computer in your hand. But there's a caveat to that, because everything you do is in the NSA. Someone has it somewhere that you farted, you picked your nose, you burped, you bought porn, you had an angry moment, human moment, and you outbursted, and now that's a reflection of you for the rest of time, because it's stored somewhere in a supercomputer in one of these very vast buildings around the United States. And then you can go into an Amazon store and get implanted with the chip, and just do that with your arm to pay for everything. The problem with that is that you lose your control to control your own affairs. When you, like, I made the analogy of calling the AI to look up something for you. When you have a typewriter right in front of you, or you have your voice control, you could just ask, just type it in. It's a little scary. It's a little scary. What they're doing with dark matter is something that I continuously try to look in all these articles and try to read. Even though some of these things are mind-blowing and will be useful, if the will intended is of a positive polarity, great. But we know that both duality exists here, and at some point it could shift to whatever. We don't want anything that powerful shifting, because then it can become its own God without the spark. Even though it is a creation of God, it's a differentiated manifestation of source. But we have a free will, and we don't consent to this nonsense. I don't. You might want AI. You might want all these experiments, and some of them don't seem that bad. This photonic one doesn't seem necessarily bad, but it seems a little fishy that Microsoft is getting their quantum computer. Google is making time crystals. Who knows what the other corporations and ones that don't tell you that they have a quantum computer. They're all going to use these brilliant minds. They're going to use their work, buy each other out, and get this technology that these people are experimenting on. And just like a Tesla car, no offense if you have one, they're gorgeous, but are they practical? Oh, well, there's climate change. Well, I lived in New York for 39 years, and never had a problem. Besides storms. That's anywhere that you live on a coast. Water always finds its level. These are things, teleportation has already been in existence. I'm sure a lot of these experiments have been done before by physicists in the dumps or off planet. It's just now coming into the ether where people are grabbing these brilliant ideas, trying to advance us, but advance us into what? I'm happy that the technology is going to grow and we're going to get better, faster, and more efficient things. That's always what we want. But at the hands of whom and what intention are they bringing? Is it of the good or is it of the bad? And we won't know that because I bet you all these people working their butts off in these labs with their brilliant minds, they are probably of the light and they just don't know that they're selling their stuff to the bad. We don't know. But I hope that anybody that's in these colleges and with these brilliant minds that you are, to really see and consider some of the things that I'm saying when it comes to your experimentation. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying consider the results, and if they have anything that can impact people on a larger scale or any scale, no one should get harmed by your experiments. But when you're playing with dark matter, especially, we don't know the state of that. If you go watch X-Files, and a lot of geeky, smart people have watched that growing up, go back to the episode with the black liquid, black goo. They told you, it's disclosure. Go learn about what that is. And somebody in some chemistry lab made some crazy, beautiful liquid that was harnessed for the dark side. And that is infecting a lot of outside of our paradigm. We really need to be careful, and we need to keep our eyes open on all these experiments and on all these articles. They're coming out all the time. These 5 came out in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And it's a rat. And like I had set like oh my god, what I saved and what I wrote from the last one, there was 71 slides, which is nothing but pure physics experimentation on quantum computing, AI, and other such things that correspond with it. If you don't go in and do the work yourself, where you can go vibratorily between 3 to 5 densities in consciousness, how are you ever going to think you're going to be able to transport yourself quantumly? It all focuses on the frequency and vibration of your inner being, of what your toroidal field that you emit out of your human body gives off. How are they going to do anything with you for a med bed or for any of these technologies if you're not frequenting yourself and you're not aware of it? How do you know that you don't lay in a med bed and it's infiltrated by a quantum entanglement of some nefarious scalar wave that's going to encode you with some crazy ass shit that it stops you from ascending? And again, if that's what you wrote in for your contract with source, then yes, okay, we don't have a choice here, but we have free will, and that's a choice to choose. Can always choose differently, can always shift. Energy is fluid. Your time scales are fluid, always moving. Things are always changing. But we really need to keep an eye on these things. I'm doing this whole series based on all these articles that I'm just randomly picking off of Facebook. Facebook, by the way, that they're showing me all these articles. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to another dimension? But how do we know if that dimension's any better than this one? And how do you get back if you made it there? I mean, look at all the time travel movies you could think of. The flux capacitor, right? I mean, even that's self-disclosure right there. It's telling you go back. It's telling you. I'm sure The Simpsons did an episode on it. It's there. It's their predictive programming. It is telling you the disclosure through fiction. For those of you who are not aware of those things, I'm sure most of the people who watch me are aware of it. X-Files, it's disclosure. They're telling you, they've been telling you, all these shows, they've been telling you the truth through fiction. And there's some exaggerated things in there to steer you off into thinking it's fake. But the concepts, the solid concepts are true and real. Until the next time, guys, I'm going to keep reading and we're going to get back to those other beautiful, scary articles that I plucked out a few weeks ago. We're going to get back to those, but I think these were the ones that were really pressing my mind, my brain, making me think, and really making me question a lot of what the hell is going on and how fast and how far advanced are they really in making these super quantum computers if they already don't exist, and I believe that they do. I think they're trying to fine tune them, and they're using these young, brilliant minds to do their lazy work for them. And yes, you get accolades, you get an award, you get to talk, you get your doctorate, and you graduate MIT and you're this wizard and you're on top of your world, and you might get the Nobel Peace Prize, who knows, or your physics award. Great. I know that's what most of those people live up for. That's their whole life. And it's great. Thank you. But understand what your work is contributing and the detriment of humanity and what that could spell out for if it's not done in the right intention. So, sending each and every one of you protection, light, love, and shielding. Please be safe, be seen. Have a great rest of your week. And for those of you in the Northeast, all the teachers out there, happy summer vacation. That once was me. Who knows? I have a long journey ahead to figuring out my life and what direction I needed to steer into. But until then, I get to do all these videos and get to think outside of my own box. So wishing everybody well, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. YouTube is still playing with my numbers. They don't like some of the things I say, and that's okay. But it's taking a long time. So I want to thank everybody for doing that, and I'll see you on the next one.